Hey, Willie, come here. Listen to this.
Turn it up.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3NN Podcast, or 3 Non-Nerds. My name is Nick Tesla.
I'm Brian McFadden.
I'm Rich Colazzo.
If you're listening to this, you are the future.
Welcome to the official podcast of Open Minds Everywhere.
We are the hidden gem of the radio community.
Of this radio community.
We are the hidden podcast.
YouTube, Spreaker.
On the YouTubes, on Spreaker. We're
Facebook.
If we can get our Spreaker up to 100 followers, and I know it's Nick Tesla, I got to find a way to change it to where we lied to, but we can get it up to the Spreaker that hosts this show. If we can get it up, it's at 30 followers right now, or 31 or 32. We can get it up to 100. We can get it on iHeartRadio.
Really?
And then we're not going to be played on people's actual radios, but anybody who has the iHeartRadio app can find our show and download it and listen to it.
That's what's up.
It would exposure, but we got to get up to 100.
So help us get there, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Help us out, everybody. So welcome, everybody. We're going to be talking about Agenda 21 today.
Yeah. You know that crazy plan to take over the entire world and round everybody up in little
what was it?
fucking
a 40-page document to take over the world, or to control the world.
40 chapter.
40 chapter. Yeah,
it's a time period of Judge
It's
Dredd.
a doozy, but this thing is like a Led Zeppelin, all right. And if it's going to go down, we got to get started. We got to start this fire.
Here's something for the people. If you've heard of Agenda 21 and you totally outright don't believe it, did you know the Affordable Care Act is in the Agenda 21 document? No. Chapter 31, ladies and gentlemen. Chapter 31. Check it out. I'm right.
No, I did not. But before you get into that, Brian, because I do want you to read me if you have it there, which I'm thinking you may, I want you to read me what has led you to that conclusion. But before you do that, I would like to ask Rich, because I would like to inform everybody that Nick Tesla has done maybe over a 5 or 6 year span, have probably put at least maybe a good straight month of researching and studying into Agenda 21, because it's a big topic and it's important. Brian, how much time have you put in the past 10 years? Let's just say.
Yeah, roughly about 10 years.
But how much have you put in? You've researched it.
When I first heard of it, extensively for about a year.
Okay, so but Rich has
just little refreshers
been exposed to it. Really. Rich has been exposed to sustainable development. He knows what sustainable development is, and I somewhat agree with Rich that sustainable development is a good thing.
I agree to an extent.
Agenda 21 can convince people that sustainable development is not a good thing. Therefore, saving the planet is not a good thing. But Rich, what with your limited knowledge on it? I know you did watch something on it over the week, but what is your thoughts on Agenda 21 coming from that perspective of not really knowing too much about it?
In layman's terms, what I get from Agenda 21 is Judge Dredd, but a beautiful Judge Dredd.
Well, which
on the outside,
What, Dredd or Judge
Dredd?
Dredd? Okay,
yeah, Judge Dredd. Yeah, same thing. So to me, it's just like it sounds like they want us to live very close proximity to each other in these cities like Judge Dredd, but on the outside, instead of it being a barren wasteland, it's trees and forests and
squirrels
and nature.
That's pretty much the basic gist of it. Yeah,
so
he picked it up pretty well.
So that's pretty much what I got out of it. But now I want to see where this stuff goes.
Do you sense anything sinister about it? Do you get that sense?
Not necessarily sinister, and if it is, it's probably unintentional.
Okay.
Unintentional, sinister, Mm-hmm. But sinisterness. That's a new word. But it's that's how I would see it. It would be unintentional if there is anything sinister behind it. But honestly, the way it sounds, man, I mean, it sounds like that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
From my point of view, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be. It's not too bad of an idea.
Yeah.
But that's my limited knowledge. Though, so let's go. Let's get into
this.
I
like that. And now let's fill in the blanks.
Yeah, let's fill in these blanks.
And I guess we'll get back to what leads you to the conclusion that the Affordable Care Act is inside of Agenda 21.
Yeah. Before we get into that, guys. Before Brian gets into that, my knowledge on Agenda 21 is yesterday. for about 2 hours. So yeah.
Okay.
So that's good.
That's
a
good.
good thing. It's
That's a good
bringing
thing.
definitely a different perspective than we're used to on the show, and that's a very good thing.
Well, to answer your question about the Affordable Care Act, the reason I think that that's in Agenda 21 is because Chapter 31 of the Agenda 21 document, all of Chapter 31 is about how they're going to they're going to mandate that every human being on Earth buy health care.
Now, did it say they're going to mandate that every human being on Earth buy health care, or are they going to mandate health care is provided for every human being on Earth? Because
that's pretty much how they phrased it.
That's kind of my question,
I think.
is when you hear something like that, it could be phrased to make you think,
you know what?
How does the poor person in Africa, how do they be forced to buy their own health care?
I won't lie.
I would love for them to be provided health care, that's for sure.
Oh, I won't lie. I did not reread that particular chapter. I just remember that part of it, but from what I recall, they don't actually express how everyone will have. They don't really say provided or made the person.
See, that's one thing that I came that I came across when I was doing a lot of Agenda 21 research, and also I guess we got to tell people about Agenda 2030, which is
Agenda 21
newer
renamed
document,
and
exactly,
a little stricter,
which a lot of people believe, but it came kind of from another environmental conference that was held by the UN, but
which we'll get to.
Yeah, but
at the end.
Yeah, I don't even know what I was going to say. This is basically what a little quote that I had, or a little thought that I had, and I could be wrong, but it's definitely a thought that I had while researching all this, was either all of these theories are unfounded, or it has been defeated by informing the public. And I guess my thought on that was, as I was watching all this, I'm seeing that a lot of these videos look like they were filmed in like the mid to late 90s. And and I'm seeing these things, and these people are literally talking. I was intently listening for timetables. Give me a timetable of what you're thinking here. Like, you can tell me all this, but if you're saying, oh, well, sometime in the future they could do this, well, then that's so vague. It's like,
I was picking up the same thing.
Huh?
I was picking up the same thing. It was kind of
exactly. And so I was kind of thinking, it's like, well, the way that these people are talking, some of them were talking by the year 2015, this will all be implemented and this and that. And I'm like, well, if that were the truth, then it would be implemented right now. Well, if it didn't get implemented right now, then maybe the people who are diehard against it, maybe they actually had an effect. Because there's people who are diehard against it, like Rosa Quar, who at a local level saw it being implemented and have done what they can to inform the public and stop the things on the local level being implemented.
Now, who is Rosa Quar?
She's an activist.
She's basically been called the godmother of the Agenda 21, anti-Agenda 21 movement.
Okay.
And she has a anti-sustainable development group or organization. I believe it's based out of Washington or California.
One thing we need to mention up front is sustainable development good and sustainable development with a hidden agenda, and it's something that each person has to look at on a case-by-case basis as they encounter it, because there is no way. A lot of these groups, which I'm sure you guys mentioned 2 weeks ago, there's a lot of good things these people out there are doing, but behind the scenes, every now and then, they're doing some bad things that could bring about this thing we're talking about today.
Yes, and that's kind of been like my overall.
I'm not saying they're all bad all the time. Yeah, they are not.
Yeah, see, that's kind of been my overarching thought, is that we can say that Agenda 21 is bad and sustainable development is bad. And that's what I heard in a lot of these documentaries, that sustainable development is just another way of saying that they want to take your freedoms and they want to take everything that you hold dear away from you. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that opens up the door to say that all sustainable, to put a stamp on all sustainable development and say that it's bad, and say that the protecting of a forest land, where that forest land has slowly but surely been chopped away at, and have been halved in the past 100 years, protecting that forest land is a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a part of sustainable development. You know what I'm saying? It's like, in all reality, protecting that forest land, if you walk through that forest and you see them little squirrels and you see the deer, you're like, I do want to protect this forest land. You know what I'm saying? I'm a human being. Like, you get disconnected from it, and it's very easy to say, like, that the whole thing is bad, that all of sustainable development is bad. And exactly what Brian said is it needs to be much more on a case-by-case basis and not based on, well, sustainable development is bad, based on the people that are involved and what their track record and what their history is. And if we can trust them
the problem
with
is
saving the planet.
Being implemented by agencies, a lot of the people involved don't even realize they're involved in this because you're getting the low-level people just trying to do a good job, impress their boss. They're just trying to do their thing. They don't even know that way down the chain, there's a reason they're doing that.
Well, they don't know that way down the chain, it's connected to the Club of Rome. And the Club of Rome has actually had a lot of influence on trying, I'm not saying they've actually implemented and been able to, but trying to implement some of Agenda 21's policies in the United States. And Club of Rome, if you look into Club of Rome, it's like, oh, Club of Rome's an evil group. Club of Rome's like the Trilateral Commission and a few of these different groups that a lot of people are convinced actually run our country. Those are the guys exactly. Those are the guys that run our country, and those are the guys that are actually puppet masters of our presidents. You know what I'm saying? So when you see that it's connected to that, you can very easily make that leap and say, well, then this is all evil. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But when you do that, you're forgetting that the planet still needs to be saved. I don't want to leave a shit planet to my grandkids.
Well, not necessarily saved.
Well, not saved, but we got to.
Humans are destroying.
We're trying to save ourselves.
Not even save
and
ourselves.
our children, so they have a world to live in.
That's what I'm saying, but like,
all right, look, Stephen Hawking has come out and said that he believes that the only chance humanity has for survival is leaving planet Earth.
Yes,
is because we are going to destroy planet Earth or damage planet Earth to the point that we are not going to be able to stay here anymore and we have to leave. Well, if that's the truth, shouldn't we be doing something about it? I'm not saying that means, oh, we're saving the Earth and we're like some big bad hero or some shit like that. No. But doesn't that mean that maybe we should try and put a stop to some of the things? That's what I see with a lot of, like, when I hear Agenda 21 being talked about in some of these documentaries, I hear about, like, manufacturing being stopped and this and that, and it's like, I think it's the pollution. It's the pollution and the poisoning of our skies and the poisoning of our seas and all the different things that like, say, consumerism is bad. When one of the things I'm watching, ladies, like, they say consumerism is bad. I'm sorry, consumerism is bad. Like, why is this lady trying to tell me that because Agenda 21 is shining a bad light on consumerism, that consumerism isn't actually a bad thing? Consumerism is a bad thing. Have you seen any of these documentaries about all of our electronic waste in poverty-stricken countries in Africa? Has anybody looked into that? That's our consumerism. That's our, oh, cool, time to get a new TV. Oh, I'll just throw that one in the dumpster. Somehow, within a year or two, that fucking TV ends up in literally a wasteland in Africa. I'm not calling Africa a wasteland. I'm talking about where they have all this technology just dumped. And that's our consumerism. And that is a bad thing. But somehow these documentaries are telling me, well, that's not a bad thing. They're trying to tell you that consumerism is a bad thing. Well, yeah, it is. It's not sustainable. Did you see that?
What did they say that Middle Eastern intelligence was getting information about the American government by
out of those technology.
Technology. Yeah, they were
copy machines. Not
even just copy.
Memory card.
Yeah, memory cards, and they were repasting, finding shredded notes.
This is really off topic, but it definitely has to be mentioned. No, not that. I'm saying this is really off topic. What I'm about to say. How many of those hard drives, not a memory card, it's a hard drive inside inside a copy machine? How many of those copy machines, how many ass pictures are in those hard drives? Just lying, like, literally, and the thing's abandoned, nobody will ever see it, but there's an ass picture in that hard drive. Somebody's ass that decided to sit on the copy machine. That's all I got to say about it. All right, I want to tell you a couple of my notes real quick here, Brian. All right, I want to hear how you relate or what you think about it. All right. This is really what I think. This can be an overarching what I believe of Agenda 21 and its implementation. I believe there are on a local level, especially also with the Bureau of Land Management. There's many things that can implicate that. But this is what I think on an overarching level.
We live in New Jersey. We live in New Jersey, and they're heavily trying to implement it. Some townships are passing back, but you can look at the town of Danville, great example of sustainable community. Look up Sustainable New Jersey. Yeah. Governor Christie's behind it.
I see it, but the examples I see in New Jersey are nothing but good. I don't see anything evil being done, because you know what I see in New Jersey, especially New Jersey. I lived in Delaware. I saw it some in Delaware. You see it probably a lot more in the past 10 years in Delaware than you do in New Jersey. But in New Jersey, what do I see? I see farmlands being torn down to make a housing complex.
Yeah, man.
I see the woods, the Brown Street Woods over here in Delran, being torn down to make a housing complex. I see woods being torn down up here to make a ShopRite and a Lowe's and all that. They need to stop that shit, dude. Because you know what? You know how long it's going to take for that shit to be torn down and nature to grow back there? 1,000 years, 2,000 years. It's like we're tearing this shit down.
No, it don't take that.
No, it don't take that long. But what I'm saying is, after humanity has had its say with it. Okay, let's just say that for all we know, that could end up being like the hub of Delran. That shopping center up there could be the hub of Delran and be there for the next 500 years, and then kind of taken care of for another 500 years after that, and all the concrete and the buildings and all that. It's going to take literally for the woods to grow back there. It could take another 1,000 years for the woods to grow back. No. If it gets abandoned today, in 100, 200 years, the woods would come back.
It'd be about 25 to 50 years, man.
But what I'm saying is, we may occupy it for another 1,000 years.
Okay.
That's kind of my. That's
you think the planet will last another 1,000 years?
Well, if we can get to the bottom of sustainable development and actually get to the truth of it, we can stay for another 10,000.
Let's not talk about the planet, because the planet is not.
We have to talk about the planet today.
No. What I mean by the planet, I'll talk about the planet itself. It's not in danger. Nature always will take the planet back when it has to.
Yes.
Okay, humans are in danger.
Us, we're in danger. We got it. Yeah, exactly.
So are we basically like the Parasite podcast here, where we're basically like a parasite inside somebody's body? Like, how do we just take over this motherfucker? How do we keep ourselves in here? He's trying to put medicines in to give us.
The reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people they say, we got to save the planet. In reality, what they're saying is we got to save ourselves. Yeah. Because the planet doesn't need saving. The nature will grow back. Life will still continue.
Well, all right.
So,
but you say life will still continue, but if we continue on the path that we're on, within the next, I believe it's 20 years, I believe it's like 25 to 30% of the wild species out there will go extinct because of us. Because of us. So when we say save the planet, it's not just, we need saving. No, it's about the rest of the planet, the ecosystem. It's about the bees.
I get that.
If we eliminate the bees, we're all fucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe we're not all fucked because of the culture or the society that we've created. But if we eliminate the bees, we've done something wrong. It's obvious we've done something wrong, and we're affecting the ecosystem more and more.
But life will still progress.
Everything will change.
Yeah, but what about those animals that are extinct? Is the dodo gonna magically pop up?
The thing is, they'll make new birds, man.
They'll make new birds.
Monsanto gonna make new birds.
Nature will make new birds.
All right, look, this is what I want to say, because I know Brian's got something here. I can see it in his eyes. All right, real quick. This was my overarching thought, and I had to write this down because when it came to me, it was brilliant. Some people took the worst case scenario and ran with it.
Alex Jones.
But no, I'm talking about with Agenda 21. Yeah, maybe Alex Jones, but a lot of other people too. They took the worst case scenario and ran with it. And there's, I'll read you some of the quotes that I came across, because it was, some of these are just like they're replacing the 10 Commandments, and it's like, and a lot of it has a lot of religious dogma that I see in it. But they took the worst case scenario, ran with it, and they were wrong. Because if they were right, we would be in a much more restricted society. Because what they were saying, when they ran with it, they said that our freedoms will be taken from us. That 90% of our freedoms, or 95% of our freedoms will be taken from us. And I'm not going to lie, a good 20%, in the past 10, 15 years, good 20% of our freedoms have been taken from us. I don't really want to get into that right now, or exactly how or what I'm talking about.
We'll get to that in a few.
But our freedoms, 90% now, 90% of our freedoms have been taken from us.
Yes.
Have not been taken from us. Sorry, have not been taken from us.
But we had a lot of major ones taken.
Things, these documentaries and these people that were pushing Agenda 21, especially in the late 90s, were acting like by now everything would be our freedoms, and we'd be so restricted, we'd be stacked and packed by now, because that's their big thing, is stacked and packed next to railroad tracks. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I literally barely see anywhere, I can't think of an example where a city is stacked and packed and next to a railroad track, or like I can't think of hubs and things
Trenton.
like that. No. What do you mean?
Philadelphia.
What the hell are you talking about? Stack and pack?
They're getting there.
Stack and
They're
pack?
building them. They're building them.
Stack and pack. Stack and pack?
Like
really?
high
Stack and pack
rises?
is like for if somebody can only afford $200,
Yeah, you know what?
they can get a little room stacked on top of something else, like kind of how they do in Japan or China.
The only place I've really seen, if Agenda 21 is real, and the way you're describing it, and the way I see it, like stack and pack, having farmlands and stuff like having like a kind of like a utopia around that. And the only country that I've been to quite a few, that I kind of see like an Agenda 21 happen is Malaysia.
Malaysia, really?
Yeah.
I keep hearing that.
Dude, there's high rises everywhere, and around it is just nature, man.
Really?
Yeah, and they're constantly building new ones, like just high rise. That was weird to me, because here we live in this kind of open. You got houses like that, but over there,
Suburban. What are the properties we service? Some of them are like what? 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, 110,000 square feet.
But what I'm saying is, though, in Malaysia, man, they just built up, and it's just strange, man. Like, so I don't know if in Agenda 21.
Well, you see that in Japan too. I don't know if you've heard about
Japan.
There's
Well, they keep
literally
saying
people who live in these little cubicles,
Yeah, they live in
little
cubicles.
cubes, and it's literally just like a bed that they can slide in. Got a TV.
No, those cubes are actually like hotels for people who don't want
I
to
think
go to
there
hotels.
are people that do.
There's some people that do
live in them because they're a lot cheaper than the alternative of having a little.
Yeah, there are some, but
efficiency
those cubicles were made for people
Yeah,
like
you're
tourists
right.
or stuff like that, just to come in instead of staying at a hostel.
But if you look at Japan and especially China, I guess
China?
like Hong Kong and some of the hub
Shanghai,
cities of
Shanghai,
exactly.
right, yeah.
You'll see some of these cities where it's kind of stack and pack. It is kind of stack and pack. But then again, they also have like 3 billion people in that one city. The most that we got in one city is like, what, 30 million in New York City? So they're having like 1 billion people in one city. We have 30 million. We can't really, it's kind of hard for us to really to correlate.
Well, what they're saying is
that it's not really stack and pack. It's just the only option there because they have so many people.
We're running behind schedule in the United States. Hillary Clinton has said that, but what most people say is London and Australia are the best examples of how far they've come so far with implementation.
Yeah, see, and those are just bad examples. Then if people are going to say, then maybe they have the good backing points for that. But like, I don't see. I don't see.
London's got cameras on 80 cameras every corner. They know everything.
I've been to London.
Pack.
I've been to London. I've lived in London, dude. There are cameras everywhere. Yeah. It's like every 10 feet.
It's 1984, dude.
There's like
straight out of 84.
Everywhere, man. Everywhere in London. Yeah. London, England alone. Yeah. Like everywhere in England.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant was
and
the UK.
I guess it is inherently bad, but I think that's another one of the things where it could be taken as like being a lot worse than it really is.
But that's where I disagree.
That's where you have to differentiate. Is this the good or the bad?
I disagree with that for a little bit because in England, there's a lot of
no guns.
There's no guns, and I'm gonna be honest, man. Like they have hoods there, but their hoods aren't as bad as ours. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's actually to me it was a lot nicer and it's a lot safer. You know what I mean? So if
as long as you ain't walking around Buckingham Palace,
right? if they have Agenda 21 issued there, it's not as bad as what people are gonna make it out to be. Because it was kind of cool. You know what I mean? If Agenda 21 was. Well,
there's also a different kind of culture than the United States. We're much more like, let me watch my football, drink my beer, and smoke a cigarette. Where in London, they're like, all right, let's get together, go have some tea, and let's talk about.
No, it's not like that, man. No, it's not like that.
No, but I actually have a couple friends that I talk to from what do you call it? From the UK. And Tansby is one. She's pretty awesome. She makes her own music. Another chick is Katie West, and she's with a group of one. And it's not a religious group. It's just a group to acknowledge that humanity is one, that we're all one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome.
The people that I've experienced in England are like it's a completely different mentality than the average.
They're a little bit more conservative.
Well, it's more they care. Almost, they seem like they care. They're not like in their own bubble of their own life. Like, oh well, I got my own. Like, whereas 90% of Americans,
but you know what that brings?
I'm in my own life, and we're all just ants bumping into each other because we got our own stuff going on, and we don't care. Like, and that's how we walk past somebody.
See, but the beautiful thing about the UK
is
the beautiful thing about the UK is everybody goes to the UK. So when you arrive in London, you're like surrounded by different people from different cultures, so that's where they get that learning experience from. That's why people in England, they have, they can speak 3 languages and stuff like that, because there's people from Germany that come over there, and France, and so and then they make friends with each other.
I guess I've also,
but America,
in our country, we got people that can't even speak our own language.
But what I'm saying about that is, like, in America, though, the only place we have hubs like that is like New York City, like major cities like that. But New York City and LA being the most visited cities in America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Vegas.
So that's where that is. Everybody outside of that, we really don't learn like that. So it's kind of like,
Man, I guess you're right. I've also seen like a difference in activism. I guess that's where I see like the culture differences. The activists, if you look into Charlie Bache and the Love Police, his stuff is hilarious. But if you watch him and then you watch almost any other American activist, you see the difference immediately between the personalities, or like it's almost the temperament of the people. And it's not like, oh, well, that's just that one guy in England. Now, if you look into almost all there's not that many activists, unfortunately, in England. But if you look into all the activists in England, it's like they all come across in an almost more caring, intellectual way, whereas an American activist comes off as
aggressive,
a little less caring, a little more aggressive. Exactly, and it's like I see something there, but it has nothing to do with the gender.
Okay, we're gonna
let's get back on topic with that.
This kind of goes with what we were just saying.
Tie it in. Woo!
This kind of goes with what you just said, because I'm going to read you a quote, and then I want to hear those quotes that you found. Okay, this is from John Anthony. He was a former teacher in the Philadelphia school system, and he was concerned with the impact of government policies on businesses, personal rights, and the American way of life. He's also the founder of SustainableFreedomLab.org.
Okay,
here's what he says at the end of his presentation that he does. Our local communities are in peril because a small group seeks to convince us that unless we surrender our property and freedoms, unless we subsume our individual rights to the good of the community, the planet will not survive. Yet this is a false choice. For over 200 years, Americans have protected our planet, our nation, and our liberties. As communities, we can all pull together to create our own plans to improve the environment without the control of international groups and the seductive lure of easy federal grants. Working together, we can save our environment, keep our rights, and our freedoms, and that is the real choice.
All right, but you know
now
what?
Now that's one activist.
I 100% agree with
you. Yeah, I do.
Now let's hear some of the quotes from other activists that Nick found.
I just want to say I 100% agree with that guy.
Yeah.
But implementing something like that, implementing that, we are in this country, and not us, not any one of us, but we in this country as a whole tend to on average, say, government's here. That's what I pay my taxes for. Government's here to take care of that. We tend to like to say, government, you take care of that. I don't want any personal responsibility for that. Us as Americans, we tend to say that. I'm not saying us three right here, but maybe us three do. I'm not saying that we do or we don't. But as Americans, as a whole, we tend to say, government, take care of it.
Yeah, we do.
Government, that's your issue. If it's a big issue, government, you take care of it.
We do that.
Like, so that's kind of the problem is, will we be able to? How do we foster a new thought in 99% of Americans' heads that this is actually important and it's time to take some personal responsibility on it? Because the organizations that have stepped up to take care of it, like Agenda 21 and the UN, have not, even though Agenda 21 is not an organization, the things that have stepped up to take care of it have not made much progress, sadly.
That all sounds like it goes back to our last show. I mean, or the show previous. It all comes back down to education, man. Educating the people in schools, giving them the right education. Will.
And me and Brian will tell you that starts with the, what do you call it? The National Education Association, I think it is. I don't know, the actual National Board of Education, whatever it is, the one that John Rockefeller started. That's what has to change.
Yes,
that education has got to be wiped away.
Yeah, that's
Common Core. All of it has to be wiped away, and we have to have a whole new idea of teaching.
That's the problem.
Montessori schools. Learn from Montessori schools.
Under treaties and trade acts and things that we've signed, we're not allowed to repeal that because we signed on to it because it's in Agenda 21.
Signed on to what? Common Core?
Yeah.
We can repeal anything
the
we
plan
want.
that our education system is teaching came through that plan.
And that's what you got to remember. We can repeal anything we want. We're human beings. We can do anything.
We who know our constitutional rights and know that this is highly illegal in this country.
Humans in general, we can. It's called mass disobedience when we all just don't agree with the law and we all don't follow it. All of a sudden, that law has no longer has any standing. It can be on the books, but it has no standing. You know what I'm saying? So,
we're
like speeding.
Yeah,
maybe not speeding.
Everybody go out. Just go 40 over the speed limit.
Brian, I have 4 pages of notes, Brian. I don't know. I've been trying to sitting here trying to figure out how I can try and interject some of this stuff, but it has no organization to it whatsoever. Can I just read my page and then you tell me what your thoughts are on what I had on my page? Some of it's information, and some of it's quotes, and some of it's my thoughts. But it's real quick. It's not like it's all just like... All right, ready? I'll just start. I'll just go. How's that? All right. Codex Alimentarius. This was all tied to Codex Alimentarius, okay?
And I'm not touching on that in my thing.
Okay. And Codex Alimentarius never came to fruition from what I see. I have not done much research since I originally came across it, but I was told, or what I saw in Codex Alimentarius was that in 2010, all vitamins and minerals would be illegal and be banned, and you would no longer be able to get them anymore. And from what I know, that is not true, even though I know they did change the concentration levels of vitamins and minerals a few years ago, or the standards for it. But I did not see Codex Alimentarius be implemented.
I still have vitamins.
This is a quote from somebody, and this is one of those quotes where it's like a sensation. Exactly, I still have vitamins.
This is what I wanted to hear.
This is a sensationalist quote. These sensationalist quotes are what make me believe that people hear about Agenda 21 and hear about sustainable development, and they're like, no, screw that! And they don't even realize they're saying, no, screw taking care of the planet to make it, if not a better place, at least an okay place for your grandchildren and their grandchildren.
Yeah.
All right? Listen to this quote. The agenda for the 21st century you're living in today, for a brave new world where everything that you cherish and held true no longer exists. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Like, you're just trying to work people up. That's all I hear is that dude trying to work people up. All right? Another one was it elevates nature over man.
That it does.
The precautionary... but hold on. Is that really that bad of a thing? Who was here first, Brian?
No. Listen, we were all here first.
No, nature was here first, and we know for a fact nature was here first.
We are a part of nature.
We found trees that are older than us.
We are a part of nature.
Huh?
We are a part of nature.
Yeah.
And we got to stop. People got to stop.
We are a part of nature, but see,
this thing that sounds different from nature. We are a part of nature.
Exactly, but we like to think of ourselves as better than nature and above nature. And then with that mentality, you hear something like Agenda 21, and you're like, well, they're trying to put nature above us. And it's like, no, we're
part of nature.
Harmonize.
Harmonize.
We're trying to harmonize. I literally saw harmonization, somebody describing harmonization because it was a word that was in, I think, Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030. And they said, listen to that first part. Harm. You see that? Harm. It tells you all about. And I'm like, instead of saying harmony, harmonize, no, harm. Really, that's where you're going to go with it.
Right. You always get one of them.
The precautionary principle, throwing out these phrases like the precautionary principle, where you're guilty until proven innocent,
which we will touch on.
But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that whatsoever.
I have examples
with anybody.
of it.
But maybe when I really thought about that, I thought about the BLM. And Lavoy Finicum and all that.
All right. Yeah, the Hammonds.
Ready? A 40-chapter document to basically control the world.
Do you know what this? Do you know what this sounds like? Are they trying to make this like the Illuminati's grand plan?
I don't know. The fear-mongering has to go out of it. That's what I'm trying to say. The fear-mongering has to go. Because you know it's a real document to control the world, and nobody likes to talk about, and it's not really a big deal? Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Read yourself Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, or first read yourself a book. Get yourself a book on simple electronics and circuitry, and understand how electronic circuits work, and how electric would go through into a machine and into an electronic circuit board. Then read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars and be like, oh my god, this is implemented right now. This explains why everything's so screwed up. But nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody.
Yeah.
All right, so 40 chapter. That's a 1-chapter document to control the world. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars.
26 pages or something like that. It was really short.
It's short, but it literally explains what's wrong with our world today. Right? Somebody is using that plan. Then when you find out what the story of how it was found in a copy machine hard drive, and it wasn't meant to be shared. No, that's the type of thing that you would make sure nobody gets their hands on, and that's the only way that somebody would come across a copy machine hard drive. But I digress. Moving on. To create world government in accordance to certain objectives. These objectives: end to national sovereignty, abolition of private property, restructure of the family unit, increasing limitations and restrictions on mobility and opportunity. And they like to use the stack and pack.
Yeah, I mean,
and I have actual direct sources that'll quote every single one of the things you said.
This sounds retarded.
Exactly. It sounds like there's a major fear element, and that's my thing. Is what did Bill Hicks said? It comes down to two choices between fear and love. And I feel fear. When I hear this shit, I feel fear. Instead of a solution created out of love, I feel a problem being pushed on us in the name of fear, and that we need to fear this, and that's not going to ever solve anything.
It doesn't sound right.
You know what I'm saying? There's no love. That's what I wanted to do with this show, is bring love into it. You know what I'm saying? Where is the love?
I honestly, man, if Agenda 21 is real and it's going to get implemented, it doesn't sound like a bad idea.
All right, ready? This is another thing I thought. People who have watched too many supervillain movies latch on to this being feasible. That's what I People watch too many, like, with the supervillain, like, with my 40 document or my 40 chapter document, I will take over the world. And they're like, it's real.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
All right, here's the things that are not sustainable, and I agree with 90% of these. So it's like, and this is what had, in one of these documentaries was shown as, this is a bad thing. They try and say, this is not sustainable. What are they trying to tell us? And it's like, this stuff isn't sustainable. Fossil fuels, not sustainable. Golf courses and ski lodges, although nice and fun to go to, not sustainable. Think about the golf courses in the middle of the desert. Is that sustainable? The golf courses in Las Vegas are one of the main reasons Las Vegas has a water issue right now, because they're trying to keep the grass nice and flush in the middle of the desert. All right? Consumerism. Yeah. Consumerism is not sustainable. We talked about that a few minutes ago. Irrigation. In all reality, irrigation would be needed if we were to really radically change the world's diet. But irrigation, as we use it now, not feasible. Okay, especially because of the pesticides and all that get into the irrigation systems. All right, paved roads. I hate to say it, not sustainable. Even though I've seen some really awesome ideas for future roads, or the roads that we'll use in the next 20 to 30 years. But a paved road is not sustainable because it falls apart. Because it breaks apart. So it needs constant maintenance. If we're going to have a transportation system that we drive on, it should really be something that doesn't need constant maintenance. That every season needs to be replaced and fixed and repaired. Like, that's not a sustainable thing. It's almost like consumerism. You know what I'm saying? Put down something that will eventually fail and need to be replaced to keep our business, our paving business, going.
Just to throw it out there, the source that Nick is quoting these from is the 1997 UN Global Biodiversity Assessment. If you want to look it up, you can get it from Cambridge University.
Is there any updated information?
That's what's hard to kind of find. And then you'll look for updated information, and you see people speculating whether they take the position of Agenda 21 is real and must be feared, or they take the position of Agenda 21 is just full of shit, or it's stupid and there's no real, it's not legally binding, whatever. Like, you'll find people that are taking one side of the argument or the other, but there's not real actual, like, stone cold facts and objectivity that I see as far as recent documents. You know what I'm saying? I saw the objectivity in some of these older documents, and you would think that these people were right, and that right now you'd see it being implemented.
The most recent document I would have for that is June of 2011. But you have to understand the timeline leading up to that first.
5 years ago, though. If this was really something big.
People that should be worried about that it would be in the news.
What I do not see yet, and I was kind of looking for it, it didn't really look too hard, but I did look, and I didn't see it, was the correlation between the last climate conference that we just had, where everybody was talking about Leonardo DiCaprio talking at it or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. The last climate conference that we had, and what has come from that, because I'm sure some sort of a document came from that, how that is implemented into this, or how that ties into all of this. I haven't seen that. But there are climate conferences every few years.
So where are we getting at? Are we trying to say that this is a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a little bit of both. We have to be vigilant of the bad aspects that could arise, but we also must allow ourselves to go forward with it and not put up this big roadblock and say, no way, because we know what you're going to do with it. No, how about we be smart and we say, let's go forward with it, and if we see any tomfoolery or any fuckery, we're going to call you out on it, and we're going to kick your ass out, and we're going to put somebody in there that is actually trying to advance this agenda, but in a way that is beneficial for humanity and for nature, not advance this agenda in a way that seems beneficial for both of us, but in all reality, you're just trying to make money.
But
you can kind of see through that.
But on the flip side,
don't let Bill Gates get involved.
We save the planet, and we save each other, and we live pretty much good at that point.
It's worth it. It's so worth it.
I think it would be worth it.
I'd almost say it's worth doing it, and if we get ourselves into some control grid or something, which is it's scary because you could get yourself into a control grid where you can't feasibly get out, but I'd say go ahead and do it. If we end up in some control grid, we work from that, we cross that bridge when we come to it.
The only problem that I have with Agenda 21 is the fact that they want to, contain us so much.
See, but I see that as being almost unfounded, or something that has actually maybe even been dropped as a directive of Agenda 21 or a directive of sustainable development of containing us. It's more maybe not containing us, but making us well aware that there are certain parts of nature that we need to stay away from because those are protected parts of nature.
That's called no trespassing signs, though. Like, you could just put that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we have
how many people follow
that's what I see, but that's what I see being implemented is private property and certain areas, like if Hawk Island in Delanco, like you're not allowed to go on Hawk Island even though people do. Like there's certain areas that you're not allowed to go on. I see that kind of stuff popping up more instead of people being mandated. It's almost like, because what I'm led to believe is a town like Riverside would be plowed, and it would be all farmland and trees and this and that, and you'd have one little block that was like 10 stories tall, and everybody lives in that block. And you don't see that happening.
We've talked about a lot of things that really are not sustainable. Like, I'll throw some more in from that same document.
Herbicides, pesticides.
Dams. Mm-hmm. They say urban sprawl.
All right, wait. How are dams not sustainable?
Man-made, built them. We're fucking with nature. We need to let nature do its thing.
It would need to be. Listen.
Upkept. That's the problem. Is it needs to be
man-made bends in rivers where we've altered the river flow.
I know what it is.
That's not sustainable because that's not natural.
Beavers do it all the time to keep that water from going over. They do it themselves. Yeah. So how is it that humans doing it is not sustainable? We could use that water. The reason why California and Las Vegas have water in the first place is because of dams.
Yeah. See, but the thing is, a dam is not in harmony with nature. That's almost
I don't know.
It's not, because a lot of times what was originally there was a free-flowing stream which had an ecosystem of its own, and what we do is we stop that stream and say we want all this water to pull up so that we can use that water. And that's not actually nature, unless beavers came along, but depending, a lot of times beavers aren't going to come along
and build something like that.
And something like an actual, it's like a dam, like us humans make, you know what I'm saying? Even though we kind of got that idea from beavers aren't going to do it on that scale. When we do it to that scale, it is kind of interrupting ecosystems and creating new ecosystems and affecting those ecosystems, and that's where we're not in harmony.
The condor went extinct because of the building of dams.
Exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. And we do certain things, and we think it's good for humanity, and maybe it is good for humanity.
Private property.
It's bad for everybody else.
Property is not sustainable.
Yeah, I don't know. And that one, all I can think back to is, who gives a shit, because none of your private property is yours anyway. We just saw that with the BLM. They took that shit. Man, it might take them a little while, but they took it, right? It's their land now, right? Lavoy Finicum's land is their land now, right? For the most part.
No, they're trying to get Lavoy's land, but his wife's fighting that. The Hammond's land.
It's theirs. They just take it.
They're going after the Bundy Ranch now that all the Bundys are in jail.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have private property, so when people are like, no, this is my private property. Well, hold on. If that's really your private property, stop paying your property taxes and tell me how much it's your private property.
The United States scales of justice are not sustainable. Yeah, this is all 1997 Global Biodiversity Assessment.
I don't know about that, unless you're talking about like a 500-foot statue of the scales of justice lady. That's not sustainable.
Well, we talked about the Hammonds and them. Okay, Betty Perry in Orem, Utah, 2007. She was arrested and held because her front lawn was dying, and she wasn't aware that was a jail time offense in the state of Utah.
And then even the
where
judge
Lavoy Finicum's from.
Yeah, and you said the judge. She talked to the judge and the mayor said that she could do that.
No, that's That's the girl who wanted to plant the garden in her.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
That's Julie Bass. She wanted to plant an organic garden. She checked with the mayor. She checked with the town council. They all said, yeah, that's cool. You're allowed to do that. Then this zone enforcement dude shows up and arrests her. She spends 93 days in jail because that was illegal. It was a zoning ordinance violation.
Now, but I believe that kind of stuff even before 1992. That kind of stuff like zoning boards and local. That's actually what I put. The Bureau of Land Management and local zoning boards are actually the greatest examples of Agenda 21 in effect. Past that, I don't see anything on larger scale levels. I don't really see anything major in effect. You know what I'm saying? On local levels, you can actually find its influence being used, but I've also found ways that it's been so easily defeated. You know what I'm saying? There's sometimes it's so stupid that like you can walk in, like go to one of these town meetings and be like, "This is literally stupid." Like, really? Like, you got to be kidding me? This is stupid. Like, you're going to keep people from being able to grow tomatoes in their front yard? Like, this is stupid. And it's like everybody kind of realizes, like, oh. Yeah, what are we doing here? All right, yeah, let's, like, okay. Like, I want to get voted back in next year. I'm not trying to piss my constituents off. All right, yeah, look, let me finish my list here. Did you finish your list of what's not sustainable?
Yes.
Okay. I got a couple more, which I do kind of agree with. There's two that I don't. Commercial agriculture, not sustainable. Sorry, the way our commercial agriculture is set up right now, not sustainable. And also the way, I consider the mass slaughtering of cows, pigs, and all of of our delightful meats that we like to eat. I believe that's not sustainable whatsoever. No. And that is.
We talked about that 2 shows ago.
That's a genocide, dude. Yeah. That is a genocide. Yeah. What we are doing to those animals is a genocide because we like the way they taste. We are sick. We're cannibals. Just because we don't eat each other, we love the taste of meat. We're cannibals, dude. 90% of us, whoever's not a vegan, we're cannibals, dude. And it's
I'm
sickening.
Vegan.
It's really sickening. All right, look. So commercial agriculture, no. Herbicides and pesticides, not sustainable. Sorry.
True.
It poisons the soil.
Yep.
All right. Farmlands and pastures. That may be the way if you want to kind of look at it how I did commercial agriculture.
So what are they saying that they're saying that farmlands are not sustainable?
Farmlands and pastures are not sustainable. That's what the document says. I'm not on that. Then I get a star next to it. I don't agree.
I'm not buying that because we need farmland.
I see. You know what I see? 50 years from now, us being past all this, and like, man, it took a lot of effort, but we did it. But you know what I see? Farmlands and pastures all around us.
Yeah,
that's what I see. That's part of
that
the
would
solution.
Actually be a beautiful thing to see.
It'd be so beautiful.
Yeah,
who doesn't love going out to a farm?
Done right,
farm with the little.
If
dog.
Done right, it won't harm the environment.
As long as they're not slaughtering, there's like a billion slaughterhouses. I think if we're planting, plants and vegetables and stuff like that, then it's definitely
like our ancestors did.
Yeah, but not dairy farms. And
that's the next one is grazing of livestock.
Yeah, that's not.
That is on their pastures for
livestock.
It's not sustainable.
So I agree with them on that one.
Grazing of livestock is really not sustainable, considering how much livestock we have. Maybe if it was down to a normal level, pre-1950s level or something, it wouldn't be that bad. It wouldn't be not sustainable.
You know what they said that if we by 2100, or by the time there's like 10 billion people on the planet, in order for we would need 3 Earths. Mm-hmm. 3 Earths full of livestock stacked on top of each other to feed all of our consumption. Yeah, and that's just not happening.
Not just livestock, resources.
Yeah, that's just not happening.
Clean water. Family unit, not sustainable.
Yes, family unit.
That can't agree with. Sorry, I can't agree with it because that is, and I can see how if you see something like that in a document like Agenda 21, you could be like, well, then they're coming after my freedoms. Well, maybe. You also got to remember, Agenda 21 is not a legally binding document whatsoever. There's no legal binding to it, which would explain why a country like the United States has not fully implemented it by now. When some of these documentaries you watch, they act like by around 2015, 2020, it will be fully implemented and you'll be stacked and packed. If you live there, you won't. And it's like there's still people living out in the Pine Barrens. There's still people living out in nature. And it's like I don't see some massive thing like they're not allowed to live there anymore. Everybody move to your approved area where you're allowed to live. Like I don't see that happening. You know what I'm saying? But the family unit thing, when you see that in there, that could really convince you that this is an evil thing and they're coming after your family and they're going. And in all reality, it was a recommendation by whoever created this document. It was a recommendation of them that they don't believe that the family unit is sustainable. Doesn't mean any of this is true. It's just what a group of people came up with as their thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So they thought family unit isn't really sustainable. What their thoughts behind that are, we don't quite know. But you can see that and be like, oh my God, they're coming after my family? No! You know what I'm saying? All right, let me read the rest of what I got on this page, and then I'm gonna toss it to you, Brian, because this is crazy. Ready? UN has a gun ban. The U.S. does not follow. So a lot of people were like, yeah, but the U.S. just, they suck UN's dick. They'll do anything the UN says. And it's like, not necessarily.
Because we have enough gun owners that'll call them out. Hey, sorry, we have the Second Amendment.
Oh, I know, but the U.S. still doesn't even say to the UN, like, hey, sorry, I understand you have that ban, and it's kind of like an agreement between all these countries. They don't say that. The UN does not say that. Where are my shirts?
Continue your thought.
Yeah, so the U.S. does not say that to the UN. Like, hey man, I'm so sorry. Hey buddy, I'm sorry, but no, they're like, sorry, but it ain't happening. Like we literally like almost spit in the UN's face when it comes to guns. We will, and we're willing to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, we'll do anything. Oh, Mr. UN, oh, anything you say. It's like, no, we're not like that to the UN. So if you believe that, oh, well, the UN could tell us that we have to implement Agenda 21, well, we don't listen to everything. And we're one of the main countries that is one of the big participating countries in the UN. We're one of the only big participating countries in the UN who doesn't listen to half the stuff the UN says, half of their recommendations. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. All right, look, Mother Earth, not to be scratched. Humans concentrated into human settlement zones. Education systems to focus on environment and organic principle. Those are just ideas thrown around at some sustainable development committees.
All this just sounds like a load of shit.
These are just ideas that people had. That's what it sounded like. Was like a group of people said, all right, how do we start to address some of these issues? And all of a sudden it came out, and there probably are a few rich people that were involved in that had nefarious thoughts and ideas.
There's no way
they wanted how to implement this in a
There's no way they can get away with this, even if they were trying to implement it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it even being feasible. So there's people that overestimate the U.S. allegiance to the UN. The Biodiversity and Wildlands Project map, it's used to show how 99% of the U.S. land will be uninhabitable by force. Yet this map was never an actual plan, only an environmentalist dream of what he/she wanted to see, or a group of environmentalist dreams of what they wanted to see, and it has not come to fruition nearly at all. Like, if you look at that map and how literally 99.8% of the United States land we're not allowed on. We're not allowed to be on whatsoever. And it's like, no, I don't see that whatsoever. I don't
this plan.
to see
this
that.
plan would take hundreds.
It was
of years.
that was an idea. It was somebody's best case scenario. Everybody's off the land and it can just regrow on its own, and we don't affect nature. Best case scenario. Well, it's like, well, that's not something to say. Well, then they're really going to do it. No, it was just somebody's.
Even if they tried to implement this, man, this would take hundreds and hundreds of years before we would even definitely see that there was any effect.
If you live there, you won't. That's my favorite quote.
Yeah.
If you live there, you won't. It's like, I live here, and I'm pretty sure if I want to live here for another 20 years, I can live here. If I want to go buy a house, a cabin in the woods, if I want to live there for another 20 years, I'm going to live there. I'm telling you it's going to happen. Protecting nature and securing wild habitats is not a bad thing.
I agree
if you're
with that.
from this area, look at Amico Island. Okay, Amico Island could have been torn down. They could have put some little shopping center there that had bars and this and that right on the water. No, they let it be nature. Even though it's a man-made created island, they still let it be nature, and it's protected. And you're not allowed to take ATVs out there. Like, you're not allowed
But people do.
There's no smoking. No, people won't take on Amico Island. You'd be out of your mind to do that. Cops are out there all the time. But you're not allowed to smoke out there. There's no littering out there. There's it's basically cherishing nature. And if you want to be in nature and you want to walk around and see it, don't disturb it. Don't screw with it. You know what I'm saying? They don't even have a hunting season. That's what I love. You go to Rancocas State Park, they have a hunting season. A hunting season for the deer. Hold on, how's that supposed to be a nature park where you're protecting nature, and then for 3 months out of the year, you allow people to come in and shoot the natural beings of that live there, the natural inhabitants of that area? Are you fucking kidding me? All right, Brian, what did you have to say?
Well, it all started back in the wonderful year of 1982, actually. I was born in 1982.
Old guy.
19.
Yeah.
19. 1982.
Well, the UN was sitting there saying, okay, the planet's going to shit, the climate's changing, we need to do something about this. So they commissioned 2 people to write a report, right? But the thing is, the 2 people they commissioned, the one is vice president of the World Socialist Party, and they want to eliminate capitalism and make the whole world socialist. So that was one of her main objectives.
I want to eliminate capitalism. Maybe not make the whole world socialist, but I'd like to eliminate capitalism.
She's vice president of the World Socialist Party. She wants everyone to be a socialist.
Yeah, obviously, she wants to do that.
Well, the other co-author, Maurice Strong, he was an interesting guy. He's former director of the UN Environmental Program, former head of a Canadian oil company, chairman of the World Wildlife Foundation. He was kind of a shady guy. He made a lot of bad deals that really screwed some people, and some activists caught him in the act one time, ran him out of town.
See, and that's what I think. A lot of people want to throw the bathwater out with the baby, or the baby out with the bathwater, because they see one person who has a tainted record who is involved with something, and they like to say that everything that they are involved with is a sham, or is part of a conspiracy, or it has evil or nefarious means. And it's like especially when it comes to the World Wildlife Foundation. Do you think that 90% of the people that work for the World Wildlife Foundation think they're part of some nefarious scam or plot? No, they think they're taking care of wildlife, and they believe in that, and they believe in taking care of species that could go extinct. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that one guy, he's a piece of shit. We know he's a piece of shit. It's verifiable he's a piece of shit, but we can't throw out everything that he's been involved with, especially even if he's been the head of it. It's very easy to say when he's been the head of one of those organizations or on the boards of one of those organizations to say the whole thing's shit, just throw it out. It has a nefarious purpose. You know what I'm saying? Which I don't really believe is always the case, but it's very easy to do that, and we shouldn't do that. Like, World Wildlife Foundation protects wildlife.
The whole point of this conversation is what I'm getting is that people are taking this way out of context.
That's kind of where I come from. I'd like to know what Brian's perspective is at this point, where we stand at this point. What's your perspective, Brian?
I still see things in it that I'm against. Mm-hmm.
But do you see those things feasibly happening? In the context of Agenda... See, I see some of those things feasibly happening, but not in the context of Agenda 21.
Well, with the way the mainstream media manipulates people and just keeps them distracted on everything so they're not paying attention. Down the road, possibly, but not right now.
Okay.
But by the way, that document by Grove Brundtland and Maurice Strong is a book called Our Common Future, the World Commission on Environmental Development, 1987 UN submission. Look it up, Rory.
All right. Look, dude, Agenda 21 conspiracies come from one group's interpretation of the document. That's what I really feel, is that the document came out, people read it, people were concerned about the environment, all right? And then you had some people who were concerned about the overreaching acts of the government and of Big Brother and taking away our freedoms. Those people read this document and interpreted it as being much more dangerous and much more sinister than it actually is, and having a much more sinister overall grand plot. And here we are 20 years later, and that sinister grand 25 years later, and that sinister grand plot has not really come to fruition much. Oh. You know, it has a little bit, but not really.
What I love is there's people that say it doesn't even exist, there's no such thing. And what it actually was the Earth Summit that the UN called after that down in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. Yeah, was Earth Summit Agenda 21. Yep.
Can I read
and they
you a
wrote
quote?
The book.
Can I read you a quote from that? And hey, maybe this.
Yeah, let's hear you.
Maybe they told this chick to say this.
Okay.
Maybe they did, and I could be completely wrong. But maybe they didn't tell this chick to say this, and she was right. All right. Where is it? If you can't stop breaking it, or if you can't fix it, at least, if you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it. That was from a young lady at the Rio conference in 1992. And you know what? For all the nefarious stuff that could have came from Agenda 21 and could possibly still come from Agenda 21, hence Rio 92 conference, that quote is 150% correct. If we don't know how to fix it, stop breaking it. At least stop breaking it. And that's what I'm talking about. We're not going to save the planet. All right, we're not going to say, yes, you might think it's coming down to save ourselves, But if we really care about this place and we really want this to be a beautiful place, like how we get to experience and go out to a park and experience the birds and the nature, the birds and the bees, okay? Like, I want my children to be able to experience that.
There's one problem,
my grandchildren and their grandchildren
there's
that.
one flaw with that
and we
theory.
gotta stop breaking it.
And what that flaw with that theory is...
There's no flaw with that theory.
No. You know what it is right now?
From your perspective?
Man, I don't have time to worry about that shit. It's baseball season.
Yeah, you're right. And that's where, like we just said, we came to before. Education, my friend.
Yep.
Comes down to education. And we got to find a way to get them young. Problem is, we let kids watch Dora the Explorer and frickin' SpongeBob when they're young, and we don't expose them to actual true knowledge because there's not actual true good knowledge out there to really... And you see some of this stuff about environmental education. You see textbooks are being rewritten to put in a focus on environmentalism and this and that. Well, maybe they're thinking exactly... Somebody was thinking exactly how we're thinking right now. You have to educate children when they're young and let them know how we are impacting the planet. Because for a long time, we didn't let kids know how they were impacting the planet. Mm-hmm. So then they got to the point where they were actually an American consumer or world consumer or whatever, and they started impacting the planet and couldn't even see that they saw there's problems with the planet, but they couldn't equate anything that they do to being attributing to those world problems. You know what I'm saying? That's why education is important, and I think that's why there's been an emphasis on changing education.
That quote was from the '92 conference?
Yes.
Here's what Maurice Strong said. Maurice Strong was the opening speaker at that conference. He walked out and says, current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class, including high meat intake, we said that, use of fossil fuels, electrical appliances, home and workplace air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I agree with most of those, but air conditioning, I love it.
Air conditioning is not sustainable whatsoever.
I know, but...
How is it not sustainable?
There's the Freon, and there's certain chemicals that are used in air conditioning and air conditioning systems that are released into the atmosphere and are actually doing.
All right, I can dig that. Yeah.
Plus, an air conditioner is not something that can run indefinitely on its own.
So I mean, that he's saying good things there, right? I mean, but he followed that up with, "Isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about?"
What, the industrialized civilizations collapse? Yeah. It's maybe not our responsibility, but it's going to happen, and maybe they want to control it. It's going to happen. The industrialized civilization?
I don't know about that.
All right. See, you can easily think of it as a collapse and the whole world collapsing down around it, but think of the industrial civilization collapsing as a new, more evolved civilization with an emphasis on love, respect, unity, and all that. As that rises to replace what is collapsing, the old industrialized civilization, which consumerism and fossil fuels and all that are a big part of, you know? And it's going to collapse. Eventually it'll go in. It's not a sustainable system. The whole entire system itself
I could lean either way with it, really.
Yeah,
it's a hard one. That's where we have to be... We actually have to pay attention to what we're doing and figure out, okay, is this really a good idea now? Or should we try something else?
Yeah. See, it takes people like us. I hate to be patting ourselves on the back, but it takes people like us because in all reality, I looked for objective thoughts on Agenda 21. That's what I want to do going forward with a lot of other topics is be objective. Because what I found was people who were either pushing or blowing the sensationalist horn and saying your freedoms are taken away and everything that you care and cherish about will no longer exist, or people... And that wasn't fully, there was no actual basis in fact on saying that. It's more of a sensationalist thing. And then you find people are trying to debunk it and say, oh, no, it's bullshit. It's not legally binding. No, it's all just nonsense. It's conspiracy theorists just losing their minds and thinking that there's some big plot to take over the world and this and that. And they're both sides refuse to look at the middle ground and really find that middle ground and put that. I couldn't find somebody that just had the middle ground out there who was just being objective on it. Are you kidding me? Not and I hate to say it, I know you don't like them, but a lot of times I'd look for somebody like the Young Turks or Joe Rogan to kind of find that middle ground on something, and I couldn't find somebody with that middle ground. That's what I loved about Joe Rogan is he is more, I'm not taking this side, I'm not taking this side. Let's just find the middle ground, whatever the truth is. Because I know there's people out there just want to find a middle ground without an emotional response of, no, you really got to believe it, or no, it's bullshit. How about we just calmly find the middle ground? And that's what we're doing today, and I'm so happy, and I'm like so proud of us right now.
Well, you mentioned the Wildlands program and the map.
It's bullshit.
Page 993 of the Global Biodiversity Assessment. Intent to remove human beings and human activity from 50% of the United States and confine humans to designated high-density habitats.
Which has not happened.
No, and that's not going to happen.
It might have been somebody's idea. That's what I'm saying. It might have just been somebody's idea as a simple solution to protect nature.
But see, this is the way I see it. Even if that was implemented and even if that did happen, it's not. That's not sustainable in itself.
Exactly.
And the reason why it's not is because once you get a high volume of people in just small spaces, we act like we're caged animals, man. We start killing each other.
Don't we?
Yeah,
Oh
so we're doing it now, and we're still kind of
That's why it's best for humans to disperse.
To disperse. So we cannot. If Agenda 21 is to happen, that itself is not sustainable at all.
You're right.
So I think that right there is flawed.
The most sustainable way, and it's scary because a lot of people don't care about the environment, don't care about their impact or anything like that. But the best way is to have everybody spread out equally across the land.
Spread out equally.
But then you start to think about people who don't care about the environment. Is that one way to just like very quickly destroy a large chunk of the land?
Here's an analogy, right?
Yeah.
The galaxy, space. Right? The calmest and most the Goldilocks zones are the zones that are not too close to its mother star, to the center of the galaxy itself, right?
Yep.
So let's think of it that way, right? So we have people as stars. Once you get too many stars too close to each other or too close to a black hole, chaos happens. Once it's evenly dispersed outwards, that's where we get a harmony.
And that's also the natural. That's when we pull everybody together, we forget entropy. We forget about the natural law of the universe for chaos, for dispersion. Okay, that's the natural law of the universe.
Out,
There's a reason why the cigarette smoke never goes back into your cigarette. Okay, it's the natural law of the world is dispersion. So when we try and buck that natural law and say, let's put everybody together in one core small space together,
so that's not happening.
Naturally, it's like everybody starts bouncing off of each other, and once out, the natural instinct is to just shoot out. But when you can't, you take that same energy and shoot back in, and it's like it's not a good thing.
So that's not a good thing.
You're
definitely.
Right, yeah, I like that, dude. I like that.
Okay, Brian, where you at, Brian?
Well, the reason you never heard of it is before this week is they actually said that if they came out and said, all right, we're going to do this Agenda 21, that people would think it was some crazy conspiracy and fight back against it. And that's why you hear things like sustainable development, smart growth, open spaces, walkable communities, happy sounding
happy
things.
Thoughts.
Yeah. Think happy thoughts.
Yeah. But I think
Alex Jones doesn't seem to be thinking happy thoughts.
And that's what I heard is
when does Alex Jones think any happy thoughts, period, man?
That's what I've heard is the reason that 2030 came out, the Agenda 2030 document came out, is because there was so much negative backlash about Agenda 21.
It is.
And this is, and like as we're saying here, this is not really something to have a lot of negative backlash about. Let's more decipher the parties that we should have negative backlash at, the individual people that we should have negative backlash at, not the idea itself.
Agenda 21 sounds good, but at the same time, it would be better if the flaws in Agenda 21 were to be fixed.
You know what I'm thinking right now?
I would agree with it.
The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry.
All
right. So, and I think that's maybe that literally could define the sensationalism of it being a problem, and there's something wrong with it because everybody knows this sounds like a good plan, but like 90% of the good plans in the world end up being co-opted or taken over by somebody who's just interested in making money and having some form of power or control. And it's like that's what we have to be very. But that doesn't mean we don't say. Sorry, I'm always wanting to say save the planet. Doesn't mean we don't take care of the planet. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a possibility. No, we just have to be vigilant and make sure we're watching and we don't turn our backs and say, they got it. We'll let them handle it. No, we just watch, and we make sure that that's not going to happen. We see it starting to happen, we put a stop to it. And if humanity's all on it, we do put a stop to it.
Well, that precautionary principle you mentioned earlier, what that basically does is if they can just come in and say, Nick, you living in this apartment poses a threat to the environment. They don't have to prove it. And you can even get direct scientific proof to the contrary, and they say, well, according to this, if we say it, you have to go.
Yeah, but
I don't like that part of it.
I don't like that part of it either, but I haven't seen that really...
Dade County, Florida. Dade County, Florida. That happened in Dade County, Florida.
Okay, sometimes they do. I'm not saying it hasn't been used
It was
at all.
1,500 people. They're losing their homes and land because their community had signed on to this program for sustainable development, and they basically told them you're living on a wetland. They called in the Army Corps of Engineers.
100% agree.
The Army Corps of Engineers come in and say this is not a friggin' wetland, and the people still haven't gotten their homes back.
And then I'd say if it is a wetland, those people shouldn't be living there. But if it's not a wetland, then it's
what they did, they pulled out the precautionary principle and said, we don't have to prove it. We said it is. You proved it's not, but what we say goes.
Yeah. I don't know.
That really bugs me.
On a local level, I guess you can find examples of it. But that happens a lot of times. And what you got to understand, what did I just say? Your private property ain't your private property.
Hammonds,
nobody own no private property in this country.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You stop paying property taxes and find out if that's really your private property or not. Okay?
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear it. If they want to come in and take your shit, in all reality, it's kind of theirs. It's leased land in all reality. You're paying... I don't look at property taxes as taxes to take care of the town, even though they are kind of taxes to take care of the town.
They're supposed to be.
I look at them as you paying your little rent to the government to have that piece of land of the government's land. Even though it's supposed to be this land is your land, this land is my land. No, it's kind of their land, all their land. Anyway, I got like 5 pages. Not 4, 5 pages, and I've gotten through 1. So I'm going to go through, Brian.
I got like 10 pages, and I've gotten through half.
Tell me when I'm wrong. I'm just going to go rapid fire here, right? Ordinary person will live without independence, privacy, or substance of rights. What? No timeline ever given. Generation to a generation and a half is what the timeline in 1991 was given, or 1992, or immediately after the timeline that was given from the first people that came out and said, this is a big problem, you got to watch out, is a generation to a generation and a half, which is... probably within the next, I think it ended up being around 2030. All right. Accusation of governments not taking action or restricting pollution to increase damage done by pollution so they can implement a government solution. Yet then complaints about efforts to curb pollution as being a part of the conspiracy. Does that make any sense?
Nope. Not to me.
No?
Repeat it.
All right. There's an accusation of governments not taking action or restricting pollution to increase damage done by pollution so they're not taking action to stop pollution so that the pollution will rise and damage more of the shit. So then we ask for a government solution. But yet, that's what we've been told as far as like the Agenda 21, like that's what they're trying to do. And
is that not what the people mainly have been doing? Yeah. Well, let the government handle it.
And on the exact same people are complaining about efforts to curb pollution as being part of the conspiracy. So if they curb pollution, efforts to curb pollution are part of the conspiracy, and efforts to stop curbing pollution are part of the conspiracy. So it's like you can't have your pie and eat it too. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Pollution will be turned into a global crisis, which, yes, it actually kind of has been turned into a global crisis.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. UN control over all the land. Ownership of the land to be held by the rich men, which you actually do kind of see slowly. I don't see it.
Yeah.
I see it in 100 years. If it continues on the way it is and we don't see any major change, the rich men will own, just like with corporations and media. The rich men will own. They'll just keep buying up what they can, as long as there's stuff out there to buy, they want to buy it. And when it comes down to land, they'll buy that too.
I can see that.
Problem.
I can see that.
Accusations of the claim to protect the environment and eliminate threats to the environment, which only threat is private property rights. Does that make any sense? Accusation of the claim to protect environment and eliminate threats to the environment, which the only threat to the environment is private property rights.
I don't see private property rights being a threat to the environment.
Exactly. I don't see that either. But that's
I don't
kind
either.
of what has been pushed. All right, look. The emergence...
So that's where you got to be like, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah. The emergence of a UN-ran global FEMA-type organization for environmental emergencies, which I don't think there is. I have not seen. I know there's been disasters, and I haven't seen some UN FEMA force come out. But then again, if it was truly based on FEMA, they wouldn't come out, right?
Right.
Anyway.
Not right away.
This is from President Gorbachev back in the day, or whatever, Supreme Leader Gorbachev, wherever the hell he was from. The UN will be the controller of all lands in the world. Rich men buying up all the land for conservation. Organizations linked to Agenda 21, World Wildlife Fund, Heritage Trust, Nature Conservancy, National Wildlife Federation, the Sierra Club, and the World Wilderness
Audubon Society.
But the thing is like, all right, I know that a lot of these theories they we're saying is BS, but isn't that kind of already happening though?
What?
The governments do own all these things and stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why it's good and bad.
There's a way that you can look at this and be like, it's all bullshit. It's all complete and total bullshit. But if you really evaluate it, you're going to find yourself like, well, actually, that is kind of happening. Like the local zoning boards, like, well, actually, that is kind of happening a little bit. So we can't just sit here and say, oh, Agenda 21 is complete and total bullshit. Let's put it to rest. Put it to bed. It's done. No, there is some truth there.
There's kind of happening.
But the sensationalism from the one side of that they're trying to take over the world, but I think that's maybe a little over-exaggerated.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But there is some truth here. But that sensationalism turns people off. And they think it's just some crazy conspiracy, and these people are being sensational how they do about 9/11 and JFK and this and that and the moon landing. You people are just crazy. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Just shut up. That's like people get that mindset because of that sensationalism.
But here's the thing. Our justice system is based off of precedents. Every case, you go to court, they'll quote a precedent from a previous case.
Yes.
And what they're basically saying, these small instances we're seeing are setting the precedent so they can roll in and be like, okay, we want to take all of Nevada, get the hell out. Shit like that.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do that, you know what I'm saying? And I don't see them doing that. What you got to understand, especially out west, the federal government already owns.
All right, so who and what is Agenda 21? Is it the government?
It's Agenda 21 is an idea. That's all I see it as an idea that some countries signed on to. Yeah. But most of those countries didn't even really fully implement because there was no legal binding thing. And that's what I think a lot of the conspiracy side of this has pushed as, and they don't actually say legally binding document, but they push it as if it's a legally binding document. And the fact that we signed on to it is basically, we have to do these things.
Actually,
whether it takes some time for it to happen, we have to do these things.
Yes.
And there's no legally binding document that says we have to do.
I'm going to rapid fire this. I'm going to rapid fire this at you. 1992 at that conference, George Bush, the senior, he signed the treaty. And then Bill Clinton comes in next year. He signs Executive Order 12852.
Creating the Sustainable Development thing.
Then they printed the book. U.S. Conference of Mayors created the Joint Center for Sustainable Communities in 97. 2001, the National Governors Association endorsed smart growth, advancing statewide sustainable development. And then 2011 was the most recent thing I have, is Barack Obama signs Executive Order 13575. And there was one, I don't remember where it is in my notes, where they signed the executive order saying that the government controls 16% of the U.S.'s food, fiber, and energy.
Yeah, I don't even know. But see, what it sounds like to me is that they've been slightly or very loosely following the recommendations. Very loosely.
Oh, that was the same one. That's the same executive order, 13575.
That once they signed on to Agenda 21, all those things prove that we legally are binded by the Agenda 21 document. That proves to me that we signed on to the document, and part of us actually wants to follow through on promising to be better in some of those areas. You know what I'm saying? But that's the reason we signed on to it. But we actually haven't implemented 90% of Agenda 21 hasn't been implemented in this country. And to use the other 10% that has kind of been implemented and say, well, that's just proof that it is all being implemented.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, that's
what if the UN decides, you know what, we are going to implement this, because it seems like Obama's all for it. He's the head of the UN Security Council right now. What says that They don't decide think how big the United Nations military is.
The United Nations doesn't even have.
Oh, they're
They have a Peace
their
Corps.
team. Well, yeah, they're a Peace Corps. Come on, man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The Peace Corps couldn't take over a country, or
No,
like a lot of
no
people
way.
believe that the UN has some massive army, like the size of China's standing army, that could go to any country.
That's what I was
and
thinking.
take it completely over. And I don't believe
Because
that's
what
the
it
truth
is,
at all.
as I understand it, the UN
I don't believe
is
the UN
pretty
has
much
any military power whatsoever.
No, I think they have
believe NATO.
They
has
have
military
the
power.
military access to the countries that are in the UN. I was under the
They
impression.
do, but those you got to also realize, like, come on, how many American soldiers are going to all of a sudden listen to the UN telling them go do this for the UN and implement or enforce this UN agenda, even if their commanding officer is telling them now it's time to go enforce this UN
It's
agenda.
illegal. It's illegal.
Exactly.
It's
that's,
illegal.
That's not.
Well, what I
nobody will
love-
But it's
follow.
also illegal to have American troops fighting on American
Yeah.
soil. They would have to come from Canada or Mexico.
No, that's
Posse
not,
Comitatus
that's,
Act.
that's been in that was repealed a while ago.
Was it?
You can have troops on those streets now.
Oh wow, I didn't even know.
Yeah, and they do every now and then. They do. Come on, take a look at Detroit.
Look at the Super Bowl.
Not Detroit.
Yeah,
Did you guys see the
It was,
security at this year's Super Bowl?
Ferguson. They brought in some National Guard. Huh?
My wife's here.
Oh, all right. So on a long story short, there you go.
Here you go. Oh, we can't. The education system. We talked about Common Core.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All facts are man-made. Eliminate all disagreements. Always rely on experts on a subject and judge by consensus. And it's only okay to question certain ideas. Other ideas you cannot question, such as wealth is socially unjust, man destroying the environment, man causing global warming, and women and girls are marginalized.
Yeah, see, and like they talk about equality.
That's what they're
in there.
teaching our kids.
Yeah, they talk about equality in there. The equality is something like that's what it bothers me. It's like
Mathematics is man-made.
mathematics is man-made,
Well,
dude.
Oh, I don't know. About
Oh.
that.
No.
The universe is mathematics.
Our way. Hold on. Where did the idea of mathematics come from?
You know what's funny
Did it
is
not come out of somebody's brain?
You know what's funny? Because I just watched a documentary, and it was saying
But we didn't create it.
Was
We
mathematics created, or was it?
That's
Or is
yeah.
it intrinsic with nature?
No, it was created, and it's our way of being able to decipher and translate the laws of physics and the laws of nature and many of these laws that we inherently have to deal with in reality. It's our way of deciphering those things. But think of it this way. Do you think that some alien species out there riding around and floating in UFOs, do you think that they're sitting inside doing math equations like Einstein? Or do you think that they have a completely different thing that they don't call math, but a completely different thing that is translating the exact same information, does almost the exact same stuff, but they have a completely different system of translating that information?
Of course they do.
Still get to the exact same conclusions, but they have a completely different system that isn't called mathematics and looks nothing like our mathematics, even though they can
but
come
they,
to
of
the
course,
same
it would
conclusions.
be that.
Yeah.
You know, of course.
That's
they
what I'm
would
saying.
have
So
their own system.
mathematics, in a sense, was created. The word mathematics,
The word, but-
the practice,
But
of
if you have
was created.
if you have one, if you can figure out what 1 + 1
We didn't
is,
create the formulas
but
of
if
the
you,
universe.
it doesn't matter. A being from another planet, man, can figure out that 1 + 1 = 2. If
Yeah.
they're intelligent. So,
Oh, yeah. It's kind of an international language.
exactly.
Yeah, it's an international language. So, but to me,
Universal
What that, what,
language.
Universal, exactly.
what that tells me is that it is something that is not created. It is something that is just inherent with intelligent beings. It's part of nature.
Yeah, but I think we like to think of ourselves as being on this upper echelon of intelligence. And in the grand scope of the universe, we may be down on the lower scope of intelligence and just barely intelligent enough to have a society and have a civilization. Whereas, and what we use to explain formulas and things like that in our mathematics is our process. But there may be somebody who's 1,000 times more advanced than us, and mathematics is like...
Kindergarten.
It is like
stuff.
a little kid with flashcards, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And it's like they laugh at us because that's our way of doing the things. And to us, it seems so advanced, and so like it's really like you can literally plot out how reality works with mathematics. It's so amazing. And to them, they might just be like laughing at us, like they haven't even discovered quantum quasi ecto mathematics. You know what I'm saying? So
All right, so the basic gist of it is it's if they were to fully implement every single aspect of this plan as it's been rolled out at these conferences,
that would be bad.
That would be really bad for us, not for the planet, but for us. But if they do like we're saying and
did it correct,
look at each instance and not just
fix the flaws.
See, it sounds almost too lazy to look at the whole entire thing and say, no, it's stupid, or oh no, it's dangerous, or no, you need to fear. How about we not be lazy and look at each and every thing as it comes up, cross each and every bridge as we come to that bridge, instead of assume what that bridge looks like and how we're going to cross it before we've ever even really seen if that bridge exists. You know what I'm saying?
Because a lot of those internet sites and everything focus on the main hardcore worst case, which would be the UN forces us to implement every single aspect of this, and we're just herded into these cities. Judge Dredd.
All right, Rich has got to go. Before you leave, this is what I want to say to end it. I don't know if Brian will have something else. All right, look, attribute, and this is just second page of my notes at the bottom of it, so it's not really that special. Attribute anytime land is taken from somebody, quasi-legally, whether for corruption purposes, rezoning purposes, revitalization purposes, etc., to Agenda 21, when there's really no hardcore evidence linking such actions to Agenda 21.
Other than the agencies doing them.
But some of those agencies are just town councils, and then to say, oh, well, that town council is following a UN Sustainable Development Directive, well, we don't really have proof of that unless we know somebody that works inside that town council, and if they can verify whether or not they're actually using that or going off of a Sustainable Development book. To just say, oh, it looks like it, so it is, like that's kind of lazy.
True.
You know
that's true.
And then the last thing I'm going to say is we are giving our land. This is what they say in a lot of these documents. We are giving our land to international banks to reduce the country's debt. But a debt for land swap would take land and erase debt. World Conservation Bank technically would hold the land. But hold on, if that were the case and that was actually happening, wouldn't debt be going down instead of up? Hold on, we're swapping land. Hold on. If we're swapping land for debt.
Black budget?
No, but you're swapping the land to erase your debt. So if you were doing that to erase your debt, wouldn't your debt be going down? At least even marginally, wouldn't your debt be going down?
Yeah, it would be going way down.
Exactly. If you're erasing your debt, swapping that land, and then debt would be going down globally for
unless
all
you're
these
still
countries.
borrowing.
And it's like, I don't know if that's...
Unless you're still borrowing more.
No, but the what was being pushed was that it's a debt for land swap, and that is happening. And it's like, I see debt going up, not down. That was happening. I see countries debt-free, and it's like, why are we debt-free? Who cares? We're debt-free. It's a great thing. And it's like, no, you don't know they took all our land. They own this land. Like, it's like, I don't hear about that at all.
You don't know.
Like, I hear about loans.
China owns parts of Nevada.
Ooh. China, Ohio. Isn't there a show called like China, Illinois or something? All right, it's been a great show. I don't know what next week's show is. It's going to be on the paranormal. I'm leaning towards aliens myself.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Because I've been watching a lot of alien stuff lately and UFO stuff. Rendlesham Forest. Oh my God, yo! You hear about this story from Rendlesham Forest, it will blow your fucking mind. We've received a message from extraterrestrial life. Whether it's us from the future or actual aliens, we've received binary code message from other, and I'm not talking about the Arecibo message or the WoW message or anything like that. I'm talking about actual words we've received.
I gotta
so it'll be fun next week. Maybe we'll just do an alien show.
Alien show next week. Sounds like a plan.
So, what do you go? It'll be a fun time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Down with the alien. I like Predator.
Down with the alien. If you got Xbox 360, or I think they might even have for Xbox One, Alien Isolation will literally have your heart pounding
that game
and like
is scary,
pissing your
man.
pants. That game scares me, especially if it's dark. I get scared playing that game. No other video game has ever scared me like Alien Isolation does. So on that note, it's a great week, right? Great week, great show.
Great week.
We've come to a kind of a conclusion that Agenda 21 should be looked at, but shouldn't be sensationalized, right?
It shouldn't be all. Don't get all scared about it, man.
Cool.
Well, that's from what I'm learning from what
if you
guys
pay
told me.
attention, don't get all scared, and just if you see something that you can tell is just like, no, this is friggin' retarded. Why would they do this to it? No, fuck this part.
No matter what.
Just tell everyone you know and get them to tell everyone you know and just
no matter what,
push that idea out.
Fear not, for we are with you. Okay? Look at it from a state of love, and everything will be okay. Promise you that. All right. Find us on Facebook.com/3NM Podcast, Facebook.com/Where We Lied To. Please put the word out. Start sharing and spreading the word for us. What do you call it? I'm Nick Kessler on Facebook. Where's
YouTube, Where We Lied To.
YouTube.com/Where We Lied To.
The Mind of Rich at Blogspot.
Yeah. And where are you at, Brian?
Facebook and Twitter.
He's Facebook and Twitter. Brian McFadden. Check us out. We call next week will be a great show. This week was a great show. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Send us your money. Love you. Bye.
You're going to get hit in the balls.
Let me know when this gets irritating, okay?
Now! It's irritating almost at once.